Hi, Henk. Good morning.
Good morning.
How long have you been working at the emergency department in Kamloops?
Since I just got my award for 10 years of service, so I've been here since 2010.
And how much of your fodder for your books comes from real life experience in the emergency room?
Quite a fair percentage, because I think that most of your writing comes from your personal experience, and certainly writing allows for the imagination to go. But it certainly, in real life, there's so many strange things that happen that, as I say, the truth is sometimes stranger than fiction. So sometimes I think some of the stories you have to taper them back to make them believable, of some of the things that we see in the emergency department.
At what point in your life did you start writing?
I started about 10 years ago when we moved to Kamloops. I've always had the stories in my head, but I never thought I'll write them down. So I started writing short little snippets of, this would be an interesting thing, not obviously personal things always, but just interesting concepts, and then started blending it into a book and gave it to a friend who, encouraged me to go further, and so it sort of developed into a hobby that's now expanded to 3 books. So really been good for me.
Do you have an agent or an editor?
Yeah, I've got an editor in Vancouver. It's Crystal Stratton, and for the latest book, I worked with the specific editor Amanda Bidnell, who's also in Vancouver, and they've been great, in supporting me and helping me. And it's a whole process. I've said to many people that for me it's like bringing up a child. A book is like nurturing a child, and it takes a village to bring the book to the last steps and to finally have the product, because you have certain ideas, and then it's fantastic to work with friends and colleagues and readers and then editors to sort of work to a final product. It's not like in the movies, for me anyway, where you just sit down and write the book and it's done. It's a whole process for sure.
I know you've got a young daughter that you had to drop off at school this morning before we could talk, and you've got 2 kids, actually. How do you find room, and as an emergency room doctor and a dad, to write psychological thrillers?
I think time is a strange thing. I think we often, if we were to go through life and you really see how much time we waste on not appreciating every moment that we have, I think you find time to do things. There's a lot of time that people spend on just doing nothing. And for me, when there is time, you just sort of have to sort of slot it in. And sometimes for me, it's a little bit of a compulsion, and I'm quite a driven person. So when I have a certain idea, I do become quite focused on getting that down. So for Blood on His Hands, which is the book that I've just sort of finished, was certainly quite a compulsive write as well. Got the idea, started working on the idea, and then it progressed into the story. But that initial plot was written within, I think, a month or 2, and then it's basically the whole polishing process where the idea has to be molded into a more well-polished book type of thing.
Do you have a time of day when you kind of like to swirl in and get the paper down, the words down on the paper?
So there's no time of day for me for sure, because I work daytime, I work nighttime. So no, not really. I try to quite often when it's a day after to basically decompress is the times that I write. And so if I've done, say, a couple of night shifts and I come back and my brain is burdened by all of the things that I've been through, then sometimes I would sit down and then write a story or write a piece or go into a character. Sometimes when I have certain emotions or certain feelings, or I express, experience certain emotions, if one of the characters in my book goes through the same emotion, then I would actually use that opportunity to write about how that emotion would feel, or write a segment that explains that emotion or that that is an illustration of that emotion, because I feel that helps me to vent that, and it helps me to get it down on paper, and then that's helped me to sort of go through life. So that is the times that I write, but there's no specific pattern to it for sure.
This is your third book. It's called Blood on His Hands. Tell us about the book. What's the storyline?
The storyline is it's about Chris Miller, who's the protagonist, who discovers his neighbor dead on his floor with a knife between his eyes, basically being stabbed, and he's doing CPR on his neighbor and friend. And then when he is unsuccessful in doing this and calls the police is on their way, he basically realizes that, all the evidence of this murder will probably point towards him. And then the story unfolds as the different investigators interrogate him and the other suspects that all live in a little lakeside area in Vassau Lake near Oliver. And they're on this dead-end street, and they sort of unfold the whole life at the lake and what has really been going on there.
Oh, it sounds super intriguing. Where is the book available?
At the moment, it's available. It was launched yesterday on Amazon. And if people want to read it, they can go to my website, henkmuni.com, and then the links for Amazon is there. But if you do an Amazon search under Blood on His Hands, Henk Muni, you will find it as well. That's for ebook and also print by order. So Amazon would send you an actual paperback copy as well. And then currently the book locally is in print and will be available at chapters locally. I'm working with Peter Pognara there, and they've been so good to me and so supportive that in this COVID season we can't really do big launch events, but to basically support the local chapters, all my signed copies will exclusively be sold in chapters locally. And once we get the books, which we hope will be available on Halloween, which is, I think, good with a name like Blood on His Hands, we should have the copies on the shelves in chapters, signed copies, available hopefully by Halloween.
Very good. Thanks so much. Great to talk to you.
Thank you very much, Shelley.